Okay. Hello to you, my Boer War fans and veterans and interested parties, war Boers. Just left my place. It's about 10 to 10 in the morning. Got about a 1 hour and 45 minute drive to get across to Snake Valley, which is the other side of Ballarat, and to a place called Caringham, I think it's pronounced. There's a little Uniting church there. Well, it's not that little. Magnificent structure, blue stone, according to the pictures anyway. They're having an open day today. Now they've got a plaque and I believe a photograph to a local resident that was killed in the Boer War. So, unlike most videos where I do the research kind of while I'm there or after, which means I've missed out on a lot of stuff I should have followed up, but we'll let it work. Today I've been doing a bit of research. The fellow we're looking at today was a Lieutenant Philip Leslie Russell, and that's the memorial. He died in September, I think, 1901 in South Africa in the Boer War. So there's not much about the actual person. There is a bit more about his heritage. So Philip's father, they're Scottish. They were Scottish stock. They came out to Victoria probably during the gold rush, the 1850s, established themselves, and Philip's father started to breed merino sheep, livestock. He bought up big runs of pasture in the western districts, which is where we're going. The western districts, rocky, not unsimilar to here, rocky, a little bit dry, but it's good sheep country. The early settlers over there, they tended to be Scottish. They clashed with the indigenous people, the Aborigines. There was a lot of massacres went on of our indigenous people, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Philip Russell's father. He seemed to have married and had a couple of children before his wife died, and he married again to Philip's mother, and they only had the one child, which was Philip. So by this stage, I think Russell Senior, I think he's an MLC, a member of the Legislative Council, so he was in Parliament. So that's what we know about the Russell family. He seemed to be an only child, but he had step brothers and sisters. At some stage, he's gone to England. He's gone to study at Cambridge. And we know that because there's a copper plaque, and I'm going to show you guys some pictures of Trinity College in Cambridge, where there's a copper plaque to the man from Trinity College who was lost in the South African War. One of those is Lieutenant Russell. You'll notice on the copper plaque down the bottom there's actually an Australian flag being etched into it. There's quite a few names on that plaque. One of them I was interested to read was Colonel Goff. And Colonel Goff served in Sudan at Tel El Kabir, had his horse shot out from under him. He was a staff. He was a member of the staff for the high up British officers. One of the officers, I'm trying to remember his name, it's not coming to me, but anyway, Gough wasn't just a pencil pusher. He was a ranking officer, and they list him as on the Trinity College copper plaque, but he actually took his own life. There's a little snippet from what I found where Gough's name was brought up in the Houses of Parliament over in London, and they wanted an answer as to why he'd taken his own life. He seemed to be under, I think, Lord Methuen, and Methuen had accused him of disobeying an order and sent him home to England. But rather than be sent home, Colonel Gough took his own life. But that's just a side note, right? So we know that Philip Russell was studying at Cambridge. I don't know what he was studying. Needs water. This is the old racecourse road, by the way. We've never been able to figure out where they used to have a racecourse around here. And there were some pictures of it from the early days. So, the clouds of war started to turn dark in England in the 1890s when it became more and more obvious that they were going to have to go to war with the Boer republics. There's a last-ditch effort. President Steyn and Kruger had another meeting with the British to try to defuse the situation. What could they give to alleviate the stress and the impending war coming? Rights. Concessions, that's the word. Whatever concessions the Boers offered, it wasn't enough to detract from the inevitable march towards war. So Philip Russell enlisted in the Duke of Cambridge's own 17th Lancers while he was in England. And he would have sailed with those troops to South Africa in October 1899. I don't know where he disembarked, maybe Durban, maybe Cape Town, because there were two phases to Russell's war. The first phase, he was captured as a prisoner of war by the Boers, and he was taken to a prisoner of war camp called Nootgedacht. Now, when I was with Alan last year, we went to a place called Watervlonde. I remember Alan showing me where the Boers had held a lot of British prisoners. Whether that was Nootgedacht, I can't remember. And also to confuse it, there was a few places called Nootgedacht. One of them was the scene of a battle that the British lost to the Boers. That was in the Transvaal. So the prisoners of war were liberated by Buller. General Buller, when he broke through past Ladysmith, he marched all his way up through the Transvaal, where we also went to last year. Belfast, the Battle of Belfast. And anyway, Buller relieved those prisoners. And Philip Russell rejoined his regiment, the 17th Lancers. So we now go to the Eastern Cape, and I suppose it looked. I just looked on the map last night where this encounter. Russell was killed at the Battle of Elandspoort near a town called Parkerstad, which is the Eastern Cape, and it looked on the map. It looked like it was about 150 kilometres east of where we were last year when we got to Colesberg, Middleburg, East Beaufort, around that area of the Cape, the Karoo. Right? And the Battle of Elandspoort is a bit like the Battle of Wilhelmsrust. And I say that because the conditions were sort of similar in the encounter. The Boers were under young Smuts. Now, a few weeks ago, my husband was on holidays in his caravan, which means I've got to find stuff to watch on TV. So I watched that movie from about 25 years ago, 20 years ago, Gettysburg, with Martin Sheen as Robert E. Lee, right? So towards the end of the Civil War, as a last gambit, the Confederates invaded the North, which is kind of what the Boers did towards the end of the Boer War. General Smuts, I don't think he was a general then, he was a commandant. Him and about 400 Boers invaded the Cape Province, tried to stir up the Dutch Boers down there in the Cape. They didn't have much success. They did get some support from the locals, but they didn't certainly rise up and arm themselves, because the British were very strict on any Boers in the Cape Province. They were British subjects. So if you took up arms against them, you were liable to be shot for sabotage or for treason. So yeah, Smuts about 400. It was a hell of a job to get there. They had to go through these mountain passes. There was snow. Their horses were dropping off, dying in the cold. They were out of ammunition, clothing, bedding. They were in a hell of a state. So they needed to throw the dice and take a chance. And they were told by a local informant that there was an outpost of British at this place, Elandspoort. And so they crept up in the mist. That's a bit like Wilhelmsrust. They attacked at night, they crept up in the mist. Now, there's a famous painting of this group of British. They formed like a circle, a bit like Custer the Bighorn. There's the last of them surrounded, and it's quite a dramatic painting. I want to drift off again, but so when I was about 20, I was living with my sister, and across the road from my sister lived a guy called Alan. And I don't know why, but I was over at Alan's place one day. Oh, my cat used to visit. But anyway, I was at Alan's, and he told me that he'd been to the tip and he'd found these prints, paintings of British military stuff. And one of the ones that he held up was this last stand of the 17th Lancers, right? It was magnificent. I should have asked for it. He told me he was going to try and contact their museum or their headquarters and donate it to their, museum. It must have been a print. Surely it was. Couldn't have been any more than a print. But anyway, a couple of years later, I bought these. There used to be like a military bookshop here where I was living, and I bought these big prints of the Zulu War, which I've still got in the Africa room at our place, Isukwana and Rorke's Drift, right? But they had heaps of prints in this shop, and they were really nice prints. If you frame them up, they look magnificent. If you had like a mansion or something, they look magnificent. So, but yeah, they had that last stand of the 17th Lancers at Elandspoort there as well. And I considered it, but I never bought it. So, that's the battle that Russell was killed at. I think there were about 29 British casualties. They were actually commanded by a guy called, I think, Captain Sandelman. Captain Sandelman was Churchill's cousin. But it was a complete Boer victory. The Boers lost one person, and the British lost about 30, 29 killed, quite a few taken prisoner, but by that stage the Boers couldn't accommodate prisoners, they just let them go. But they loaded themselves up on ammunition, clothing, food, horses, rifles. They took, I think they took a field gun, and they disabled a few of the howitzers, or pom-poms that the British had threw them in the lake. They did take all their uniforms, and that there was some conjecture that as the Boers approached the British, they were wearing British khaki, which is how they got so close. So Kitchener, after that, issued his directive that any Boers caught wearing British khaki were to be shot. So after that, when Smuts and his men heard that, they disposed of the British uniforms and they just started wearing civilian clothes. So that's kind of the story of the guy we're going to visit. That's where he lost his life. He was one of those 29 at Elandspoort. Oh, it's actually a farm, I think. The farm is called Modderfontein. Right? Muddy Fountain, Modderfontein. So alright, I think I've told you enough. It's an open day at the church. They're only there once a month. Today they're having like a little, there's the blessing of the animals. There's some stalls. So I'm not sure what's going on, but they're having an open day. So it opens at midday. It's 10 o'clock, it's about a 2-hour drive there, so alright. I'll fill you in as we go. Thank you. So we were coming through Creswick. If you look, there's an episode where I came to Creswick one time looking to get into this. This is the old town hall, and there were big scaffolds on the outside of the town hall. And I thought, well, there's no hope today that it would be open, but it's been turned into a museum. They renovated it, and the lady at the desk said she knew about a Boer War monument to plaque to the men that served in the Boer War. So this is an extra, eh? We're about, I'd say, 40 minutes from the church over there in Snake Valley. Alright, well, here's a wooden plaque. Presidents of the Creswick, oh, these are the Australian Natives Association. She said there's a couple of things for the Boer War.
Where are you?
I'm here. Oh, okay. I'll walk past it. Oh, I wouldn't have seen that.
No, that's why I came up.
Oh, thank you.
Because that's the one I had in my head.
Yeah.
When I spoke to you, and I suddenly thought, well, you'd be expecting it to be on the wall.
I would have. I would never have seen that.
Yeah.
That's magnificent marble.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, you know, which name are you interested in?
Oh, all of them, yeah. I went to South Africa last year visiting the battlefields of the Boer War, so I've done all around this area. I'm on my way to Cremorne now. I think Snake Valley.
Yes.
So they've got a plaque over there.
Oh.
But that's magnificent. Show. It would have been on the wall in the town hall, I guess.
Yeah, I actually to Can you get a proper photo of it?
Yeah, that's really good. Wow, thank you so much.
Alright, I'll leave it to her.
Yeah.
Alright.
Oh, we were lucky there because, yeah, I wouldn't have seen this that the lady came and showed me. They served in the Empire. There was a captain, a corporal, and privates. I don't really know any of those names. They don't stand out to me. See if I can get a photo next to it. John Curtin, one of our prime ministers, was here. Look at this. This might be where they used to have them council meetings or something. Look at this. Wow. The mayor. Oh, this young man. Oh, actually, he went to... He's the one mentioned on that. Oh, well, we've got something there to look at. Look, can you see that? That's his Boer War medal on the left with the Queen's head. So he's the captain that went and served in South Africa. He looks like he's been elected to council the year he came back from the war. But yeah, let's see if we can get a... Can you see that? They look like both of them Boer War medals. One is the King's medal, the other is Victoria the Queen's medal. There might be something about him. Arthur John Newman Tremerne was from old British stock from Cornwall. His great-grandfather had fought with the British against the Americans in the War of Independence, but his father had come to Australia in the 1800s and had been a successful surgeon, and in fact was groundbreaking in his exploration of surgery for cancers. They settled in Creswick. They were a notable family, and the marriage of Newman's father to his mother was attended by hundreds in Creswick and many onlookers and admirers watching the wedding from afar. So Newman was a bright young man, an intelligent child at school. His family suffered from many child mortalities of his siblings. At least from what I could read, 2 or 3 of his young siblings didn't survive very long into childhood. He was born in 1877, and he was studying medicine at the time the Boer War broke out, and he volunteered and sailed for South Africa. Surprisingly to me, when I read some of his biography, he was involved in the Battle of Rensburg, Pink Hills and Hobkirk's farm alongside Major Eddie, where I went last year trying to find Major Eddie's last place. He was wounded at Hobkirk's farm, shot in the ankle and captured by Boers, but they seem to have let him go with the idea that him having studied medicine seemed to have swayed them, and they let him go. The injury to his ankle was to play a part for many years to come. It didn't heal very well, and he had fallen off a horse, so it did affect his taking any further part in the Boer War. He was a lieutenant at that stage, but became a captain as he was taken to England for more recovery and surgery. By the time he came back to Australia, a huge crowd waited for him at Creswick Station, and all the associations in town, the Creswick Women's Association, the Australian Natives Association, they all wanted to wine and dine him. He was elected to council on his return, and for the next few years led a fascinating life. He visited West Africa on a number of occasions. He was involved in the Ashanti Wars. He also served in Nigeria, was wounded by a poisoned arrow. He studied anthropology in London and was a noted Australian abroad for his knowledge of Africa and various languages. So by the time World War I broke out, he had married and they had a young child, a daughter, but she passed away in childbirth. But he'd been promoted to Major at that stage and he was assigned to the 8th Battalion of the Seaforth Highlanders. Now, at the Battle of Lewes on the 25th of September 1915, he was killed in action without any detail ever being revealed, just that he'd lost his life on the attack of a German position at the Battle of Lewes. Captain Tremaine, goodness me. This is fantastic though, isn't it? Look at these portraits, wow. I'll ask the lady when we get down there if she knows anything about the good captain. Look at these seats. Shire Council. The Queen's Diamond Jubilee year. Oh, look at the size of these frames. Wow. You know, impressive that they could enlarge these photos to this size back then. Wow. Oh, I'm much impressed with this. Yeah, Bugger Lindsay. Hi. I was interested, you didn't know anything about Captain Tremaine? Or was it?
Tremaine.
Tremaine?
Tremaine. Yeah, well, not a lot, because he was killed.
Was he?
Died.
In the First World War.
His
was he?
painting's up there, his photo's up there.
Yeah, with those are Boer War medals he's got on.
Yes.
Yeah, but he was wounded
Was he?
in South Africa
Ah.
and sent back to England
Right.
and came out here just before the First World War was declared because he had to race back.
Right. Do you think he was killed in World War One?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yes.
Alright, we'll get over there. Certainly the op shop is open. This is one of your more impressive. Look at that, eh? So Lieutenant Russell is a Caringham resident. Right? Now there's not much. Well, there's nothing in Caringham as far as shops or anything goes. It's one of these little country towns that back then might have had more life than it does now. I don't know what the ladies are doing over there. We're going to say hello. Hello. Well, you're selling sausages maybe, or... I'll get one on the way out, I think. Thank you. Look at that though. There may be a service going on. There is. Okay, so they're having the blessing of the animals. So I've got these cakes, right, for Brian, the cupcakes. This is the old, the op shop, Bluestone. Now I took a photo, you can't see, but that plaque over there on the, it's a marble plaque on the side of the church. It's a gift from Philip Russell, right? So that's Philip's father. It says he arrived in Australia November. I can't really read it, and for some reason it's fenced off here. Or maybe there's stuff falling off the church. I think you can see on the spire there's stuff falling off. I could squeeze through here, but if they'd see me. Anyway, I don't want to push my luck, right? So the church service has got about 5 minutes to go. Apparently the Historical Society is here. So he lost his only son to the Boers. Those bloody Boers, eh? They're all the way out here. They reach. I send over a bit of music going now. They've had the blessing of the animals. Alright. There's a goat. So, they've concluded the service. There are a few animals still hanging around. There's a beautiful little white lamb up the front there. But where is our friend? I think here he is here. Hello, hello. That's a magnificent photo. That's the man we've come to see. Modderfontein. So I think Colin told me that this is a reason putting this picture up here. We'll see if I can use my camera, my phone, get a bit of a better. It looks like he's sitting in the training camp back in Melbourne before leaving for South Africa. These people. And look at the baby kid. And there's another mention for the Russells. I think the Russells are a big family. And over there is a cross, which also mentions a Russell, which was lost. He's a captain lost in the First World War. It's the head of a cross. I'll show you this. Can't get rid of those people. They're standing in front of the. You see that? Captain J. Russell. Australian Army battalion in memory of, and he was killed in 1917 in the Great War, obviously. Those people, maybe I can ask them to move. Oh, here we go, here's the big copper one that we were talking about. Okay. Hello. Yeah. Yeah, they're Presbyterians, but everywhere. He died in 1892. That was Russell's father, and a benefactor, and he lived here for 50 years. I can't get past these people. The people are clonking themselves here. There's some old style folk.
Where is he? He's one of the men down here.
Oh,
So Blanche is married. So this window over there is dedicated to Blanche Russell.
that's it there. needs a touch of Brasso, but it mentions the 17th Lancers, right? Remember the Duke of Cambridge, 17th Lancers. There is the Rose. I don't know if it's the Lancashire Rose or the, yeah, it might be the Lancashire Rose. So they're calling it Modderfontein. We also know it as Eland's Poort. Let's see if we can get to the other one now. With the
Okay, coffee's promoted from France, so it's marked the grade kind of local.
some old style people here. Hello. Sorry, sir. Can I get and have a good look at that photo, please? Thank you. Yeah, that's magnificent. Stainsburg, the Cape Colony, the 24th of October 1901. Dear Mrs. Russell, I received your letter dated the 27th of September on my return here yesterday, after following up the commando under Smuts, which attacked Sandeman's squadron near Tarkastad last month. The enemy have been well punished on several occasions since that day and are now being pursued in the country west of Beaufort West, where both food and water are scarce at this season. I enclose a cutting from the Craddock newspaper which gives a very fair account of what actually happened on the 17th of September. Your brother went out with the troop in the early morning which reconnoitred the Elands River Poort, and again when the alarm was given he went out as stated in the newspaper cutting. On return to the camp he was one of those who defended the kopje to the west of it, and preferred to die rather than surrender. By Boer prisoners who we have captured since the action we have been told of the determined stand made by the few who held out to the last. It was indeed a terrible fight, and I cannot tell you how much I and all the officers of the regiment deplore the loss of your gallant brother, a most capable soldier, a good sportsman. I personally miss him very much. It was because he was so reliable that I attached him to Captain Sandeman's squadron during the operations, as the latter had several detachments of local troops attached to his command. The latter, though excellent material, require leaders. I was with the squadron in the afternoon of the 16th of September until dark, and then on the next evening I was there again after the fight. Although the enemy were barely in occupation of the camp for an hour, it was long enough to enable them to set fire to the tents and whatever things they did not carry off. I shall do my best to discover more details regarding the poor boy's death from the wounded. The latter are still at East London and some are at Cape Town, but I fear nearly everyone who was on that fatal kopje was killed. This is merely a short note to go by this mail in reply to your letter. At the same time I beg to offer you our heartfelt sympathy in your great loss.